Welcome back to Mostly Growth, the #1 podcast in product monetization. And joining us today is Emir Atli, co-founder and CRO of HockeyStack, which is the command center for B2B revenue teams. Welcome, Emir. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I've been surveying go-to-market leaders about AI, and I have some stats I wanted to share with you to get your take on this, right? So more than 3 in 4 go-to-market leaders say they feel top-down pressure from their CEO and their board to adopt AI. But when I ask them how it's going, what impact are they seeing from AI, more than half say they're seeing essentially no impact from AI adoption, and only 1 in 4 is seeing a big impact. I get quotes like this: "We tried an AI SDR for 6 months and were unable to generate a single opportunity. People hate AI slop. It's best for prepping for meetings." On the other end of the spectrum, we're seeing people doing incredible things with AI. So I'm curious, where are we in the AI adoption curve for go-to-market teams?
From Mostly Media, it's Mostly Growth. Go-to-market strategist Kyle Poyar and CFO CJ Gustafson break down how modern companies make money, covering pricing, monetization, and benchmarks in ways that make you better at your job. Tactics and playbooks for finance, product, and sales operators looking to be the CEO of their role. This is Mostly Growth.
I think out of all verticals, go-to-market is the earliest one. You can also see it as in every single vertical has a clear winner. Go-to-market doesn't have one yet. I think we are very early, and I think one of the biggest reasons is go-to-market infrastructure is severely broken. And when you ask the same go-to-market leaders if their infrastructure is clean, if they have clean data, if they have good data, if they have everything they need in the core infrastructure, 99.9% of them would say no. But then they buy AI platforms thinking that it would work on that same infrastructure that's broken. And that's why they're not getting value.
And so I guess saying this differently, if AI is dependent on the context that AI has, otherwise it's more generic or slop, everyone's investing in the AI portion, but ignoring the context portion. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, they're ignoring the context and infrastructure portion of AI. But by ignoring it, they basically do the same thing and then they expect different results.
Well, I guess what goes into a successful implementation? What are some of the things that's required that most companies are ignoring today?
So for AI to work well in go-to-market, you essentially need to re-architect the underlying infrastructure of go-to-market. So for example, right now we are still using a 20-year-old object-based model and storing the data. But then when AI goes into that object-based model to get the relevant context and to understand what's causing what, it's not able to answer those questions, and then you get bad outputs. So we need to rethink the entire architecture before going into AI applications. We have been focusing on that HockeyStack for the last 5 years. We need to be able to build infrastructure in a way that AI has all the context, all the causality within our data, work on a clean data set, and then build specific applications on top of that data. This might be a hot take, but I think the interface for AI in go-to-market is not prompting, because with prompting, every single person prompts in a different way and you get different answers. AI ICs should not be prompting AI systems to do day-to-day work.
You guys are building AI tools for your customers and you're adopting AI internally. On a scale from 1 to 10, how impactful has AI been for your own go-to-market?
We are focusing on specific use cases and applications of AI. So for example, we have internal agents that we deployed for ourselves in the last 2 quarters that now we're deploying to our customers with our new launch last month. So for example, we have an open deal next best step agent, we have an expansion agent, we have a forecast agent, we have a number of different agents. If you put it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say 8. Why it's not 10 is because we are going use case by use case and team by team to get the highest adoption. So not every single team is agent first right now, and that's by design. We have most of our AEs, SDRs, and account managers working with at least one agent in their day-to-day that gets them from all the way from step 0 to step 10.
If I would have asked you that a year ago, where would you have been?
Probably a 2.
I guess, what are some of the things that you look at as a co-founder level to say, hey, our team is actually seeing a lot of progress with this versus hey, they're experimenting but not seeing a lot of progress? Is it the number of agents per employee? What are some of the indicators that you look at?
One thing that we do fundamentally differently in deploying agents for our own production and also customer production environments is every agent, every use case has a POV and a hypothesis by deploying this AE agent, we will reduce our cycles and increase, ACV. So then we religiously follow those two pieces of ROI metrics in like a quarter or 2 quarters, whatever. And then we do the same thing for our customers. So what we see right now is our cycles are significantly shorter. Efficiency metric for us is number of deals that they have in pipeline that they can process without dropping the ball on anything, which is very clear if you do any type of pipeline reviews. We also deployed Cursor to our entire sales engineering organization and product managers. So right now we have a lot of teams doing fixes on certain parts of the product and our sandbox environment without going to an engineer. We have product marketing managers writing documentation solely on Cursor. It's basically changed the way that we work and go to market across every aspect of it. And again, when we deploy an agent, we don't just like deploy it into production and hope it works. We start that process with a POV and with clear metrics that we focus on.
What's one of the most impactful like functions where you've been able to apply AI and AI agents?
So me and my co-founders were outsiders to go to market. And I think that significantly helped building a product that would change the way that go-to-market teams operate. So as HockeyStack scaled, one of the things that I've noticed is we have a lot of top performers on our AE team. So to be able to understand why top performers are top performers, you need to talk to them. And then they always say, like, I just do things and they work. But when you dig really deeper into the data, there are a lot of things that they do differently that the CRM is not capturing. So when you look at the CRM, it's like 5-6 stages and then revenue. But then the actual sales process is not like deal created, discovery, stakeholder demo, alignment, whatever else. And there's a lot of data in your systems. We basically sat down for hours and hours during every single deal. That was a very successful deal in terms of ACV and cycle time. And then we created a blueprint of our own data manually. And then we implemented across all of our AEs. And that was like one of the biggest things that we have done in 2024 and 2025. And this was before the models got really good. We built the product in a way that you see the blueprint that agents can use as a tool. So like the entire blueprint of your sales process. And then we deployed an open deal next best step generator agent for ourselves and for our customers as like one of the first agents that we built. It captures all the context from a clean data set, which is HockeyStack's data foundation. And it's suggesting next steps that AEs can accept or dismiss and agent execute on those tasks. And then if the task needs judgment, then it delegates to the AE. The AEs don't need to go through like calls and context and research and everything. It's just in one single place.
What's interesting to me about that is not one of the top AI use cases I hear from other teams. Like often the top use cases they found early on would be things like more automated outbound plays or market intelligence. The bigger opportunities are working with AEs to better prosecute pipeline, but that's just like much, much harder to impact. And I think requires more of that figuring out the best process based on historical data. Like it requires just a lot more upfront work in order to make AI actually useful.
And a lot of the like applications that the world is focusing on right now is essentially like we had email campaigns before. Right now it's just faster and at a higher scale. But what you're doing is essentially scaling the spam. Then you don't get results and you burn through your TEM. Go to market, we need to focus on the actual use cases that would make our day-to-day much easier, faster, and better versus just scaling spam.
So if you're an AE, wrap up your first demo with a customer, what are some of the examples of things that this AI agent's going to suggest that a lot of the underperforming AEs weren't doing before, but they're now doing because of the AI agent?
First, it will look at what was discussed in the call. What are the action items? Secondly, who are the stakeholders that joined this call? So there's like stakeholder mapping and then creating specific tasks for these people that we need to reach out to. And then from there, every company is doing something different than any other company. So for example, for us, we have a very good gifting motion. So gifting is one of our like secret sauce in our deal cycle, especially after the first call to build a champion. From there, for example, another unique thing about HockeyStack is we create I don't know if that's unique, but we create a deal workspace and then we create a Slack channel. So deal workspace needs to be customized for the customer based on what we talked about and based on similar customers. So for example, if you're talking to a cybersecurity company, workspace needs to be about cybersecurity and our cybersecurity customers. Next call prep. So between the first call and second call, what needs to happen for the second call to go well? That's also specific to the account. That's why we create the blueprint first. And then the agent is doing what we need to do between the first call and second call, creating those tasks and then prioritizing based on urgency. If you have reps working anywhere from 20 to 30 deals, that is a whole lot of work that needs to be done by a human consistently.
Hey, thanks for listening. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Here's a question. When was the last time you really had time to focus on growth and not chasing contract renewals, tracking shadow IT spend, or explaining rising software costs to the board? Yikes! The truth is, traditional spend management is broken. If you're still piecing together data from 5 different systems just to figure out what you're actually spending, while vendors keep on pushing those auto renewals and price hikes, my friend, I got a solution for you. That's where Tropic comes in. Tropic is an intelligent spend management solution that consolidates your spend data and processes into one unified offering, enabling insights and decisive action. It doesn't just show you where the problems are, it helps you solve them. From spotting hidden optimization opportunities like duplicative spend, to automating those painful procurement workflows, to giving you the best market data that turns every vendor negotiation in your favor. Tropic combines smart insights with real human expertise to keep you ahead of the curve. And I can say firsthand because I've used them for over 2 years. Their SaaS platform helps me with price checks. It helps me keep my calendar organized of when renewals are coming up and I can actually visualize it. And let me say, it saves me more than 10 hours a week on vendor management, and we've saved a ton on renewals. I'm walking into the boardroom with a lot more confidence. Isn't it time to turn your spend management into your competitive advantage? Visit tropicapp.io/mostlymetrics. That's tropicapp.io/mostlymetrics.
If you run go-to-market, you already know the problem. Your go-to-market data is everywhere. Ads, CRMs, sales calls, marketing, spreadsheets, but you're still guessing what to do next. HockeyStack is the AI platform for modern go-to-market teams that collects all your customer data and unifies it into a single system of action. Then you deploy AI agents that prospect the right accounts, help reps close and upsell deals, improve forecast accuracy, and automate what's already working across sales and marketing. Instead of running 5-year-old processes manually, your go-to-market team finally has agents that understand your ICP, your funnel, and your buying motion, and they execute on it. That's why teams like RingCentral, Outreach, ActiveCampaign, and even Fortune 100 companies rely on HockeyStack to cut through the noise, eliminate wasted spend, and make better go-to-market decisions faster. That's HockeyStack, the AI platform that helps go-to-market teams make space to think and win. Here's a growth tax nobody talks about. Every new monetization model you ship creates a nightmare for your finance team. Add usage-based pricing? Now you're tracking consumption against commitments. Launch product bundles? That's multiple performance obligations per contract. Offer mid-cycle upgrades? Woo! Good luck reallocating revenue manually. But that's exactly where RightRev shines. RightRev is the revenue recognition engine built for companies that can't afford to let accounting slow down growth. When your RevRec is automated, your product team can ship new pricing without asking finance for permission. And your sales team can close creative deals without worrying about downstream chaos. To get up on my CFO soapbox for a sec, I love talking about creative pricing models, hybrid pricing, credits, tiered usage. But I've seen too many companies where the sales team is celebrating a huge quarter while finance is still trying to figure out how to recognize half of it. In a world where your pricing model might change 3 times next year, that flexibility is everything. If you want to scale your monetization without breaking your books, visit RightRev.com. That's RightRev.com, where modern monetization meets bulletproof accounting.
I think we've all been on the other side of the rep that took 2 weeks to send the follow-up email, and the follow-up email was not really based on the action items we talked about from the conversation, and the deal sort of stalls out, loses momentum. You just end up working with the company that seems like they care about the deal more. And it's amazing to me how many times the product that's picked is based on the sales experience as opposed to based on anything specific about the product itself.
That's what we always heard from Close One and Close Loss interviews as well. They say it's something about sales experience. If you lost it, sales experience was not ideal. If you wanted, 99% of the time they say your sales process was significantly better.
Setting this up, the first step was that kind of data and context setting. And it sounds like you were mining what were the differences within the won deals and the lost deals, because to your point, this is not data that's easily found in the CRM. If an opportunity progresses from stage 2 to stage 3. Like you could see that in the CRM, but you can't see what were the things that happened to get them to stage 3. So what were some of the things that you looked at to even like figure out these differences between the deals that were going to be more likely to progress and the things like the top AEs were doing compared to deals that would stall out?
There's like things that we noticed when we did it manually, and there are things that we did it actually when we turn into a product. So when we did it manually, one of the biggest eye-opening moments for me was how often the top reps are using internal executives to get to power. But like our top reps are drafting emails for me to send to an executive, and I connect with that executive one-on-one, and there's like a specific agenda or brief that like the absolute top reps sent to me to get that deal done. We had a deal that we closed in 96 days with a Fortune 100 company, like Fortune 10 company. And I was like, from the first call to the last call, we executed every single step perfectly, because there was like one deal that we focused on specifically. But if you have like 15 of those, there's no way you can execute it. Like in that case, for example, I met with the champion or the executives 3-4 times. But every single meeting, I knew exactly what I was going into and what I'm supposed to say, because our AE prepared me with like Slack messages and like voice notes and everything. So I knew exactly what I was going to say. I said the right things. I moved the needle by being present and building a relationship, which humans are uniquely capable of. But everything before that was not automated, but everything was perfectly tailored for myself to do what I'm supposed to do. When we actually deployed the blueprint product of HockeyStack to build the agents, like one of the biggest things that we realized at our sales force has like 6 steps, 6 stages. There's like exit criteria. Those exit criteria and the stages are opinionated. So our VP of sales and myself, we built those. There are our own opinions about what a deal process means. But then we built the blueprint inside HockeyStack. What it looks like is a giant decision tree. Like no human can understand it. It's very, very complex. And the unique things are essentially like, for example, only 28% of our reps were actually sending a pre-call meeting brief before every single meeting to our stakeholders one-to-one. Only 28% of our reps were doing this. When we do it, there's a 15% lift in stage-to-stage conversion. And what's crazy to me is go-to-market teams, in order to get to this outcome, they do endless pipeline reviews where they can only review 5 or 6 opportunities. And what ends up happening is we just ask metric fields. We put those fields in Salesforce so that we don't need to ask. But then pipeline reviews are also about metric fields. So deal is actually not moving to the next stage because the pipeline review is entirely built on metric fields.
We actually did a process. So when I was in VC, we brought in an external sales consultant to build out a kind of review past deals and, winning deals versus losing deals, and then define essentially a playbook for what were the best folks doing that everyone else should be doing more consistently. But I think what's so difficult there is you'll spend 6 figures with a sales consulting firm or a training firm. You'll leave with a great training, but then there's no automated way to actually implement that process consistently. So you all feel great, for the first week or first month after the training, but then the momentum quickly dies out.
Yeah, exactly. And then one very unique thing that AI is now able to do is learning how different reps work and tailoring the next steps or tasks based on how they work. So for example, from that consulting session that you did, you probably ended up with like a giant list of tasks that we need to do. And then if you do it perfectly, you give the same task to every single rep. But every single rep in different segments of your business probably work differently. And that uniqueness about them makes them perform better. They're human, so they have some unique capabilities and unique things that they do. So the AI is able to learn from the task that they dismisses or accepts to tailor better task for them.
What's been the before and after in terms of things like, changes to win rate or changes to like the number of active deals that an AE can process at a time?
Different segments have different results, but our cycles have decreased on average by 18 to 20%. So we're able to process more deals faster. Our win rates have increased in different segments by 5 to 7 points. I think it also helps with the retention. Something that you hear from reps is they want to work at companies where they have the best tech and no one wants to do manual things. So I think overall the team is happier. I think we will have better retention. We are making them do the things that they're uniquely capable of versus doing manual things.
What would you say is maybe the second best application of AI and AI agents on the go-to-market side for you guys?
the best way to build a generative company is being an outsider to an industry and you fall in love with it. And then you want to change the way that it works, which is the case for me and my co-founders. One of the things that I've seen in my day-to-day as a CRO is as we scaled HockeyStack and raised money and hired a bigger team and hired executives is forecasting. So we bought a forecasting tool and we deployed it with our head of RevOps. And then I was in this forecast meetings. Again, this was pre-AI. But you're in a forecast meeting and everyone is like giving their forecast and committed deals. And the forecast tool is like just a set of rules. For example, you don't have 7 stakeholders, so you need to add 2 more because you have 5. Or this deal has been in negotiation for 15 days, so it's at risk. There's just like these rules that are not based on data. It's just someone's opinion about not even our business, just overall go-to-market. And it's not in our data. It's not based on our data. So then the forecast meeting is usually another pipeline review. So you keep asking questions to reps and everyone is like distracted and they don't want to answer the same questions over and over again because they answered the same questions 2 days ago on a pipeline review. So we deployed a forecast challenger agent. How it works is, again, it works on the same blueprint based on different segments. And it's challenging the forecast a day before to our VP of sales and myself to see what exactly each deal is missing. And we take action before the forecast meeting. So for example, an AE put a deal in forecast and it gives me questions that I can ask or do on my own. For example, you're connected to the CMO. You didn't connect with the CMO, but your deals in enterprise segment usually have a CMO engagement. Even though via negotiation, this deal can stall because based on the patterns, there's a real risk in procurement deals when the CMO is not involved. Now our forecast meetings are much more proactive because we're focusing on how can we make sure the forecast is real versus validating fields. This is just a personal win for myself. It just irritates me and frustrates me that you hire a team of great people and you spend 1 hour just asking questions that I should have answered myself.
The meetings often feel super repetitive because you're asking the same questions over and over again. And there's not really great action items that come from them. For the training of the data, is this trained based on like past sort of email activity and other activities at the account level, or is it trained more on past forecast meetings and conversations and trying to take the insights from those?
What we do is essentially we integrate with all of your data sources. These can be structured or unstructured data, so data warehouse, CRM, call transcripts, previous forecast data, previous expansion data, product usage. Basically, we tailor it based on how your company works. So if you're a PLG heavy company, it would also have product usage. If you're a sales head company, it would have forecasts and everything. So it's based on a company. It's like tailored to the company. From there, we create a blueprint. For every single call that you have, let's say it's expansion and new business deals in different segments. Each of these segments and calls have a different blueprint. It's like a massive decision tree. We have different agents working in different parts of that decision tree. And in our opinion, as a company, is we should not automate a customer interaction. So customer interactions are never automated by AI. The furthest that an AI agent can go is drafting the message, but we never send it because that's what we believe in. So there are different agent applications in that decision tree that agents execute on, and then the rest is humans via task generation. And then we use that blueprint across all of your agents. So we have out-of-the-box agents similar to the ones that I explained earlier, and then we have a custom agent builder that our team deploys.
What about the marketing side? Have you been finding any success with AI agents there?
We have our AI Analyst, Odin, we released early 2025. We have a budget optimization agent, and then we have an anomaly detection agent. So essentially on the marketing side, we are much more focused on decision-making versus scaling campaigns, asking questions to your data, getting structured answers back, detecting anomalies every week to fix those, and then budget optimization based on all of your data, all of your goals. Those are the use cases that we focus on.
What's an insight that you had from this analyst around like your campaigns or, maybe what was working on the marketing side that you probably wouldn't have had as quickly without the agent?
So the agents can also take in unstructured data. So anything from like the copy of the ad to metrics to like calls. We have a massive top of funnel spend. What that comes with is a lot of campaigns they need to go and check out individually, and a lot of creatives and copy they need to check out. What we realize is top of funnel and brand awareness, like brand in general, is something that I believe in myself. But then there's a difference between different campaigns. And what we realize is our biggest success like most successful campaigns in top of funnel, it's not about just like brand awareness, but it also has something about the problems that we solve in like a different way. So what AI can get us to is there's something unusual about these creatives and copies and these like campaigns that are driving extraordinary results. But like that process would have taken us weeks because we need to export everything and then put into sheets and then do VLOOKUP with like metrics and then also call transcripts about successful deals. That just is a weekly Slack message. The other thing about marketing is we basically migrate everything from ChatGPT to Claude.
Why do you do that?
I'm like a big Twitter user, so I've been seeing it all over the place, like Claude and Claude Code and everything. So I just spent like 2-3 days, like from Friday to Sunday. It is so much better in the answers that it gives and like brainstorming. But versus ChatGPT is just validating my internal thoughts. And it just made our marketing effort so much better. And how we use Claude is more on like brainstorming side and like coming up with better ideas and better execution.
So just zooming out here, so you've been in this process of transitioning like marketing and sales workflows to much more like AI first and AI agent first. What's like the biggest barrier you encounter with the team, and how are you thinking about overcoming that?
When you basically ask everyone to use AI and motivate everyone to use AI, every single thing that you want from a person that you hire to do a job, you get the output from AI. So for example, can we work on this campaign? And I want to know XYZ things, and I want to have a playbook, for example, ABM. I want to build an ABM campaign. These are 200 accounts. Think outside of the box. And I want to create a campaign plan. Hey, demand gen manager, can you create me a plan that we can review end of day today? And then if I get like an entirely AI written process, then that's just the wrong way to use it. It actually slows us down because the entire thing is built by AI, which means there's no human judgment in it. There's no like HockeyStack DNA in it. It's just something that you can do it as well. So if you have a company, if you have a CMO, if you use Claude, you can probably get the same ABM playbook. And I have the same ABM playbook. So I do the same thing that you do. Then I expect better results than you. But we use the same tool. We use the same process and same playbook. The biggest barrier is going to be, what is the balance? When I'm thinking about this from like, for example, we have operating principles as a company. Here's like 10 things that we focus on as a company. I think we need like operating principles to work with AI. What are the things that you cannot use AI for? So if I'm asking for a playbook, what the playbook needs to look like, so it actually has HockeyStack DNA and HockeyStack judgment. This is there that it's like easiest to start a company, but the most difficult to scale a company. And I think it's mainly because of like how easy it is to get something done.
Next up, we've got our segment we've called Business Blunders. If there's anything that's been going on that you're thinking, maybe I wouldn't do that, we want to hear about it.
So we've talked about swag before, gotten some good swag, gotten some bad swag. CJ got his favorite swag ever with his hot sauce. What I did not anticipate is getting a $36 tariff bill from FedEx for swag that was shipped to me. And so I think the business blunder is not factoring that in to ABM gifting campaigns or other swag campaigns, because tariffs are a real thing and your customers might not be ready for them to be hit out of the blue with a tariff for a gift that they did not necessarily request.
I haven't seen tariffs, no, but I agree with you on swag. I think that is like something that I'm still figuring out myself as well. We also want to have good swag, but like the classic examples of like a water bottle or like a power bank, I don't necessarily know if you're spending our money in the right places by buying 1,000 power banks.
I think I've received like 24 water bottles and more t-shirts than I can count. It's challenging to both like be creative, but then come up with something that's going to be used regularly so someone like sees your brand and thinks about you.
If a t-shirt is very, very creative, then you're probably not going to wear it. Doesn't really have any type of benefit.
Well, do you have a business blunder this week?
Not this week, or like last 2 months probably. LinkedIn algorithm. I'm just tired of seeing 3-week-old news. Right now, I think they're testing something new. I'm seeing suggested people and suggested content. Likes is not the most important thing, but like I'm seeing posts with 2 likes and 2-week-old. It's clearly not a good post. Otherwise, it would have more than 2 likes. But I'm seeing it on my feed. On one side, I'm just worried. What should we do? Or we're just spending more and more on thought leadership to overcome it. And it's like a band-aid. Then also, how would LinkedIn with thousands of engineers not able to figure out the algorithm.
And I feel like I miss things that are from people that I interact with regularly. I want to see their content. I've like opted into following them and I never see anything from them. I know they're becoming pay to play, but to me, the best solution from a business standpoint is having some sort of audience ownership, which I'm sure is not news to you, but that's why I'm very glad I invested in a newsletter 5 years ago, because like LinkedIn, it's a slot machine these days. And like the slot machine can still, like you can still hit the jackpot every once in a while, but it's really frustrating to not have any sort of control over it.
Yeah, I almost miss the days where we would see hundreds of selfies on on our feeds, because at least they were new selfies and new posts. Now it's just old posts and no selfies. One question about your newsletter, actually, when you think about growing your newsletter, are you not thinking about using LinkedIn to grow your newsletter?
I still rely on LinkedIn as a growth channel. LinkedIn almost used to be like just super dependable. Like I would get a very consistent number of likes per post. Like I would get a certain number of impressions, and now it is completely unpredictable. And so I want to still use that as a channel, but it needs to be one of like 5 ways to grow the newsletter and not the only way.
Next up, we've all got different things that we're using, different tools. So we want to hear them from you. What is something that you tried this week, you guys?
All right. I have given Granola another try. I'm not in love with the new logo. I find it really strange. And I don't know why they took what was a fine logo and turned it into like something that looks like a maze to me. The product itself is great. And I'm finding like the summaries it has of meetings are like shockingly good. And it actually gets jargon correct. So shout out to Granola.
We are a big Granola user too. Everyone's on Granola at HockeyStack. It's a great product, great brand. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but Claude, specifically Claude in Chrome for me. So I will talk about Claude, so I didn't go into it. Claude is a phenomenal product, so much better than ChatGPT. So I downloaded and used ChatGPT Analyst, the browser, the day it came out, and I've been using it for the last 3 months or so every day as my default browser. And I switched to Chrome with a Claude extension, and now I'm able to group tabs together and use Claude on those tabs.
I've not tried that.
That is one, and then I'm terrible at Excel. And if you have Claude on your Chrome, then you can just use it in Google Sheets.
Does it give you the formulas? Does it just like auto-calculate?
In the Excel app extension, it does it for you with a natural language prompt. On the browser, it gives you instructions, but if you have Excel and if you have Claude extension, it just does it for you.
I spent the first 6 years of my career in consulting, learning like Excel and Google Sheets and all of the tips and tricks, and like pride myself on being a power user, but now there's really no benefit to all of those skills.
Yeah, there's absolutely no benefit, unfortunately.
Mostly Growth is a Mostly Media production. Executive produced by Ben Hillman. That's me. Additional production by Steve Sarasoli. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of CJ, Kyle, and Ben. Just some guys who love talking growth. Mostly. If you like this podcast, hit subscribe and give it 5 stars. It'll only take like 2 seconds and our algorithm overlords love it. Drink water, call your mom, and have a great day.